Oh, Wes, are you recording? I should probably ask that.
Yep, I am recording. I've already done my
Okay.
test run, and we have volume or voices on both sides, so we are Gucci.
Could you fucking imagine? Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's hard to
Good
believe, but we
morning. Good
got
afternoon.
it. Sorry.
Jesus Christ, Wes. you,
So I
you
was
just gave me
gonna.
a dry run. That's okay. Eat shit.
Well, we got our cold
Good
open.
morning.
Well, you know what? Let's just reschedule. Let's maybe. I think I've got something to do upstairs that's not this. So
Oh.
Okay. Are
I'll
we good, Wes?
behave.
We have a cold open now. That's good.
True.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're tuning in from across the country and around the world. This is the Life Midwest Podcast. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Join a washed-up musician, a communications major, and an Army veteran, all originally from the Midwest, as we talk about life and events that are both current and events. Here to carry that out, not Lenny this week. Lenny's off, but I do have myself, your host, Kevin Palmer, and we got our Thai correspondent, Wes Shirley.
Howdy.
And joining us from the very, very far depths of Ohio, I'm just kidding. He's probably like 2 zip codes away from me. But joining us for the latest installment of the My Friend series, we have Davis Wells.
hello, everyone.
No relation to Lenny Wells, which I think is funny that you guys both have the same last name, but I don't think there's any relation there.
I don't know, Lenny.
Yeah. So, Davis, how's it going, man? How you doing?
Life's great, man. I doing so much, and just feel so much happier. In regards to like my mental health. Everything's just going great. I love it.
Awesome. Well, as a mental health advocate, I'm always excited to talk about mental health. So if that's where the conversation steers today, I'm all about it. I know Wes is too. I don't mean to single Wes out there. So I know he is too. Cool. Well, we're just going to kind of roll off the cuff here and try to establish some sort of timeline. But if we end up talking about modern day and how life is today and kind of sticking around there, that's cool too. So just a little bit about Davis. He's an award-winning photographer from Northwest Ohio, currently studying to become a broadcast operational meteorologist through Mississippi State. What better way to learn about meteorology than studying at a school right in Tornado Alley? Is it Tornado? Is that considered Tornado Alley?
So
A little south?
funny you mentioned that. It's there's a lot of people when they think of Tornado Alley, they think of Central Plains of the United States, but there's different versions of Tornado Alley. That would be considered like the Dixie Alley, with that being in the more south towards the Gulf Coast. But yes, it is. There's a form of a Tornado Alley down there for sure.
Sweet. I'm excited to talk about meteorology too because what's funny is Ashley and I both, when we were younger, that was like kind of like our first like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that's what I told everyone, was that I wanted to do weather and study weather. I actually wanted to be a storm chaser. I thought that was fucking cool. Because when I was a kid, my dad had one of those big over-the-shoulder camcorders, and anytime we got any sort of severe weather, we were out back filming shit, and my mom was in the basement yelling upstairs like, "You guys are fucking stupid." My mom doesn't sound like that at all, but you know what I mean.
That's just what it's a character,
It's a character, so that you knew it was somebody different. Yeah. One of the things that we usually start with in the show, Davis, is we talk about kind of like our first memory, or like when you kind of like when it kind of hits you that like you're existing. Mine was pissing the bed. That's my first memory. Wes's was playing with a Tonka truck, I think.
Mhm.
And then Lenny's was when he was on a vacation in Arizona at like age 3.
Interesting. I think if I think back, my earliest, like, I guess, like, complete memory that I can think of, my family, we took a vacation down to Florida, and I think we spent like Christmas slash New Year's there. I remember it being kind of a hot mess because what we drove down there, and it was like a 20-hour drive, but we ended up getting stuck in the mountains, not the physical mountain, more traffic based, but there was some accident and it like shut down the interstate and we were stuck there. And I remember, I'm sure I was complaining, but I remember my parents complaining. We may or may not have had to sneak off into the woods to use the restroom. But I vividly remember the trip down there, just spending time with family. And there were a lot of us in one house, but it was such a fun experience. I'm kind of glad that's like the first memory I have, and it's not something more morbid and like depressing. But yeah.
Like peeing in the bed.
Yeah. For exactly like that. Yeah.
Cool. All
No
right. Well,
judgment, though.
thank you. I appreciate that. Take me from there. I mean, as far as like first memory, talk about like early childhood years. Like, what kind of kid were you? What were you into? What was your thing? What did you use to pass the time and family life and all that? Just I'll let you kind of take the reins. Take it away.
Sure. So, growing up, I was a rather socially reserved kid, and I think I still am to this day. But I always had like a sense of anxiety, just kind of interacting with people. I never felt like I could somehow mesh together with others and how to like start conversation. And that kind of went with me through. I mean, even still to this day, it's improved, thankfully. But I was a very socially reserved kid. Like favorite TV shows. I was big into Power Rangers. I spent a lot of time on the computer, honestly. I think because like during our time, computers were like kind of evolving, and I spent so much time playing different games. And eventually once YouTube rolled out, I think, what was it, 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. It was such a unique platform just to be able to watch literally anything. And it kind of got me into more of like a creative side. I was like, oh wait, like maybe I could do this, or maybe I could do something like this. There was a point in time when my friends and we had made like our own YouTube channel, and we were making like our own stupid videos. We would recreate Metal Gear, if you know that series. I think at one point we had, I don't know why, we had like a cardboard box, and you know how Solid Snake, he's always in like, there's like that box that he can like morph into. Thought it'd be a great idea to go to the park with a giant box and pretend we were Metal Gear, and then film it. And people were just like, what on earth are these people doing? And we were crossing McCord over at the Strawberry Acres Park. I don't know. We were weird, very weird. And then I would say like, I don't know what necessarily sparked it, but at about like age 10, I noticed I was like developing this fascination with weather and just like how everything moves around us and how certain things can happen, but then some can't. I just remember like we had cameras were kind of up and coming, digital cameras, that is. And my parents, they had like this Sony, it was almost like the LG like kickflip kind of, where like you had the camera itself, but then like the screen flipped out, And I remember using it to make, like, I guess, imitation weather forecast videos outside. Like I was like one of those intense Weather Channel reporters that's out in a hurricane, but rather it was just me in the front yard with reporting on like some light snow that was coming through, and I just thought I was the coolest dude in the neighborhood there. But yeah, I that kind of sparked my passion for meteorology, and here I am now at 27. I'm now studying it, which is kind of, it's like it's been a lifelong process almost.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it wasn't a straight linear line to that because you had some journeys within retail and things like that, which I'm sure we'll get into today as well. The thing that's funny to me is with when it comes to like the videos that you were talking about, I feel like Wes was grinning because he remembers fondly like the videos that like he would make of like our friend group when like all the stupid shit that we would do or say, and what it ended up being was like a montage of him making fun of like him and like a couple other people in our friend group making fun of everyone else in the friend group, but it was actually like a lot of fun to watch back and be really funny. It was kind of like The Office best of, where it's like, oh, yep, that's me.
Oh goodness, it's almost
yeah.
like an early on roast. You were like, maybe you originated the original roast.
I think you did, Wes.
Maybe, I don't know. If I can find any of those videos, I'll splice them in here for everyone's entertainment. And to our I don't know what the word is, our horror.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah. Some are making me cringe, some are making me laugh inside fondly. So that's all right. So about age 10, got into weather. Did something pull you away from weather? Did something pull you away from that and just be like, hey, not now, or maybe this is my passion. Maybe I'm gonna go do this instead.
It did actually, yeah. So I when throughout high school and like high school, I was always passionate about weather, and it kind of, I, when I was a junior in high school, I started working at Kroger. I feel like that was a pretty typical standard job, especially for those at my school. I started as a bagger and worked my way up. I became a cashier, and then I worked at the service desk. And I think like through that process, I got a little lost because it was a sense of like moving up and feeling like, oh, I got promoted. I got promoted to this role. There was something in that like really struck me in a good way. Like I was like, I like being recognized like this. I like having this responsibility. And I was with Kroger for 7-8 years. I went to be a front end manager, and then eventually I was a e-commerce manager, and then a district e-commerce manager, kind of rolling out ClickList. And I loved it. And like I think what kind of stuck me to it was all the relationships and stuff that I built with some of the people. Every retail location you go to, there's going to be people that you enjoy, and then there's just going to be those people that are just always Debbie Downers and have nothing good to say, and they just don't enjoy life, which that's fine. I mean, I get it. We all get in that rut sometimes, but it ultimately, what kind of transitioned me from that retail side, and at least at Kroger, I had a manager who, I'll leave his name out, but he was very, I guess, to just kind of be straightforward with it, he was verbally like harassing me a lot. And I got transferred to his location to try and revive their click list. And because of that, I don't know if he didn't like that like I was sent there to do that. But he just kind of assumed that like everything that he has done was the right way and it had to be done that way. And so I only worked at his store for about 3 months, and then I eventually was just like, you know what, like I'm not doing this. Like, I'm 20 some years old, and you're not going to verbally harass me, and that's not okay. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people that kind of stick at a certain location, even though they're miserable. And I don't believe in that. Like, if you're not happy, get out of there. Like, my mental health is going to drain and become worse. And it's just not worth it. But, transitioning from Kroger, I went to, Apple, and I spent some time there with Kevin, and that was a fun experience. Such a great group of people. Apple's such a unique company in regards to just like everything that they're putting out there, but then also just kind of their mindset of business, which kind of still kept me in that business field of things. And then, having since then, I've left Apple. I was with Target for a period of time doing management there. And I've now transitioned. And I guess to kind of go back just a little bit, when I had first started out college, it was a rough time. And I say that because I was living with my parents at the time, and my mother was a alcoholic, and the drinking it was progressively getting worse and worse and worse. And as I was going through my college classes, I wasn't able to truly focus in on what I was doing at school, to the point where my GPA dropped so low that to be able to recover it, I would have had to spend so much money in tuition and in classes just to try and get something salvageable out of that GPA. And when I was taking some of those classes, I was taking many different forms of college algebra and calculus and statistics and whatnot. And it was during those times I was failing those classes. And I had it stuck in my brain that, you know what, you can't do this. You can't do this. And I think it was because I had associated that memory of being in those math classes while I was dealing with a difficult life situation. And after spending so much time in retail and how much it's changed since COVID, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that feel like life should be handed to them on a platter. And I think they lose sight of the fact that the people that work in retail are still humans. They have emotions, they have feelings, they're not robots. And I just kind of got tired of it altogether. And I was like, you know what? I'm leaving retail, and I'm going to do what I've always been passionate about and kind of face my fear of the math piece of it. Because there is an incredible amount of math associated with meteorology. A lot of people think, oh, okay, we'll just plug in some numbers and, that's what it is. But there's, you're calculating the temperature of parcels of air that are lifting from the atmosphere compared to the temperatures that are around it. And that's just a tiny, tiny portion of it. But I'm like, you know what? It's now or never. I'm going into meteorology. I'm leaving retail. I'm doing what I'm passionate about. And, I took a big leap doing that by I'm now part-time. I just work part-time and I do school part-time. And I think that was important for my mental health to be able to kind of tone that back a little bit and be able to focus on my classes that I'm doing. So that way, as I continue to move forward throughout the meteorology program, I will be able to take those small portions and continue to apply them. So then at the end, once I earn my degree, I'm actually managing. I'm not just in school to survive, to try and, stay afloat. I want to be able to understand the material and, eventually become the best meteorologist that I can be for whatever area it is that I serve.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And I'm sure you've been told this before, but not a lot of people have the courage to say, you know what, F this, I'm going to go and do what I've always wanted to do. Because I think by the time we decide that we want to do that and that we should have done that, we have kids or we're settled down, or maybe we're, I feel like a lot of people get to their mid to late 30s and then they're like, I should have done this, but maybe it's too late. And then by the time they decide that it wasn't too late, bam, you're 45, you're 50, you're 50. You know what I mean? And so it's just,
Yeah.
for you to be able to pull that together and decide that in your 20s and just kind of say, hey, you know what, like I'm gonna do this, while strike while the iron's hot kind of thing. That's really cool. I'm super supportive of that. Do you have like you said that depending on where you might end up, as far as a station or affiliate, is it ignorant of me to ask about aspirations for the Weather Channel, like a nationally syndicated weather program, or is it more so I want to find a community and serve that community?
That's interesting because there is that, you do kind of want to find like almost like a home in a sense, but I wouldn't be opposed to doing something nationally, just because I know that would bring opportunities for travel, and I love traveling, and I would be able to see different forms of meteorology across the nation, things that we don't get to experience here in Ohio, like earthquakes. We don't really get earthquakes. We do have them, but we don't. It's not a common thing. Tsunamis, we obviously don't have that. Tornadoes, they're frequent in Ohio, but not as frequent as some other places. And I just think it would be so cool to kind of venture out a little bit and see what else the world has to offer. And then maybe eventually finding a home and settling in with a set area, whether it be Toledo or somewhere along the East Coast or West Coast or down south. Like it could be wherever. But yeah, I mean, I think ultimately it is to find at least some place that you can call home, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's all meteorology. It's all the same thing, and I feel like I would be happy doing any of that anywhere I am, whether it's for a public entity or private or even government for that matter. I think I would be thrilled to do any of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Quick follow-up question: Are there specializations within meteorology? Like obviously you have like storm chasers or things like that, but does it get deeper than that? Like, is there like a doctors? You have like oncologist and things like that. Are there specializations within meteorology? And if so, like, is there one that you're after in particular, or one that you like more than the other?
So I'm still early on in my meteorology program. But I do know that there are many courses that dive into some of those different types. Like there's synoptic. You've got more of the like teleconnection, which is essentially how things on a large scale of the world affect different areas across the world. So there's so many different sections of meteorology to go into. My degree that I'm currently studying for, it's kind of like a hybrid mix. So there's the broadcast piece of it, but then there's also an operational side of things where once my degree is completed, I can go into broadcast, whether that be on air for a public news company, or it could be something like AccuWeather or the Weather Channel. But then there's also the operational side things too, which is more like behind the scenes. You don't really see us, but it's still something that we're doing. And that's typically associated with like the National Weather Service. There's 122 of those across the US, and they have so many smart and intelligent people that I think even something like that would be super cool. They're the ones that are responsible for issuing any type of weather warning or watch or advisory. I think that there'd be a sense of pride in working something like that to be able to, again, protect and help communities by providing them that life-saving information when needed.
That is so cool. That is really awesome. Hey, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, coming up, Davis is gonna talk about. We talked a lot about meteorology already, but I mean, modern day stuff. What grinds his gears, and maybe some stuff that doesn't grind his gears. I don't know. We'll see where the wind takes us. So stick around. Welcome back to the Life Midwest podcast. On the other side of the break, it's your host Kevin Palmer, Lenny Wells, and Wes Shirley. With Lenny Wells off this week, he's doing something. We have our special guest. We have a special guest, Davis Wells, with us. Doing all right, man. Having a good time.
I love it. I love it.
Cool. If you're looking for ways to support us and keep these episodes going, it does cost money to run the show. We got a PayPal set up at paypal.me/thelifemidwest. You can also interact with our social media manager, Lenny, even though he's not here, at any major social platform at The Life Midwest. We also have a website at thelifemidwest.com. You can also email us at support@thelifemidwest.com. We're still figuring out why we labeled it support, because we don't actually offer support. But I think it's a moot point. I think we just roll with it and just make fun of ourselves for doing it, right, Wes?
Absolutely. Although if they ever need like emotional support, they can come to us, like play us over the speaker on an airplane, and when someone tells you to turn it down, be like, no, that's my emotional support podcast. And then email at us at support@thelifemidwest and tell us you did that.
How long have you been holding that joke in?
Just off the dome. It just came to me.
You should have said
I
it's
love
been
it.
cooking.
I fucking love it.
Awesome.
Davis, we've been talking about meteorology, your path to it, your scenic route, kind of around the bend there through retail. And oh wait, camera. It did this last week too.
There we go.
There we go.
There you go.
Come on. Wes, you had some questions, some follow-up questions for Davis about not as well, it can be about, ask him whatever the fuck you want. I don't care.
All right,
Fire
so
away.
you want to become a meteorologist, and like anyone growing up, when they see their idols, or when they want to do something, it normally has to do with like an idol or like someone you saw on TV that you really like. Do you have any oh my god, words. Why is that so hard? Do you have any meteorology inspirations or icons? Inspirations? Did I already say that?
I do. And also, quick side note, it's you should try spelling meteorological the very first time on like your phone. That's how you just spoke. That was exactly how my brain worked the first time I ever tried typing that in. So you're not alone. It's okay. But yes, I do have somebody that I do idolize and really respect within the weather community. I was actually fortunate enough a few weeks ago, I went down to Ohio State University. They had their their annual severe weather symposium, where essentially a bunch of us weather geeks get together and listen to all the like cool things that we have to talk about, whether it be new technology or just different ways to maybe move forward in your career with meteorology. And I'm so fortunate to be able to listen to meteorologist James Spann, who works down in the Birmingham, Alabama television market. He's been doing this since 1974. He was doing weather on a radio station down there just as a teenager. Like that was his thing. He just did the weather. And just the amount of work that he has done for the meteorology side of things and different improvements and things that can be made. It's just remarkable that one human can lead that kind of charge. If you actually go on YouTube and look up James Spann, he is commonly found on a video where there was a large tornado outbreak that happened in the South back in 2011 on April 27th. and he was on TV that day for about somewhere in the ballpark of 14 to 16 hours.
Wow.
The severity of the tornadoes that day was remarkable, and it was a generational, a 40-year event. And that was kind of like his, there becomes a time when everybody has like a moment where they're stepped up to the plate, and you're dumping all of your knowledge that you have leading up to that point to give to everybody. And he talks about, for that day, with the coverage that he did, that unfortunately there were over 200 people that were killed. And he says, there shouldn't have been more than 30 killed, because of the way he looks at it. Is, what, there were things that I said that I should have worded differently to prevent possible confusion. These are things that people should be doing instead, so that way they're safer in their homes. And it's just, like I said, it's remarkable that one person is able to be so humble with the fact that he doesn't know everything. And the weather it's not a perfect science. There's still a lot to be discovered. And with him, he takes every single day and tries to learn something new. He's very much a people's person. He learns about the community that he serves, and how he can kind of clear that gap from meteorology to the public, and understanding how they meet and how they can understand each other on a day-to-day basis. And so he's such a remarkable man. So glad I was able to listen to him speak.
Awesome. Yeah, you asked how you were doing. You're still doing excellent. That's like the coolest thing I've heard on this podcast, I think.
Love it.
I forgot my other question because of how cool that was. I think we're good to go on.
Okay.
I shut him up.
Cool. Well, yeah. I mean, not a lot of us get to meet the people that we idolize, or that we feel like we want to follow in their footsteps almost, or kind of follow the same path. So that's pretty awesome. I mean, for a lot of us, I mean, for me, as we joke about me being the washed up musician on the show, but like for me, like my peak was like I didn't even get to meet Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. I just got to go to one of his shows, and I was still 300 feet away from him, but I was singing his songs back at him with 80,000, not 80,000, but probably 30,000 other people. And I think that's, it sounds like you got your moment of singing back with 30,000 people, but yours was a little bit more one-on-one, which is pretty cool. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm super happy for you.
Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to ask, so are you kind of rooted here in Ohio? It sounds like you're kind of open to going somewhere else, and I was curious if because your partner's in real estate now, are you both kind of open to it sounds like you both like to travel, but are you both open to planning your routes elsewhere if you find something?
I think that's not out of the question. We've had those conversations about, like, hey, finding a meteorology position in Toledo can be very difficult to do. So, if there isn't the option to be able to work here, for whatever reason that might be, I'm totally open to, changing up environment. Now, it would kind of suck moving away from family. They're very big in my life. But fortunately, we have so much technology, FaceTime, Zoom, whatever you call it. And if we move somewhere in Ohio where his license is still valid, that we could totally do that. That's not out of the question at all. I love Toledo, honestly. It's, every city has things that are great and things that are not great. But Toledo has been pretty much where I've been 90% of my life, and I love it. I love it. I love everything that Toledo has to offer. They've grown and changed quite a bit. So If I had to leave that at some point, whether for career position, you can always do that somewhere else too.
Cool. Cool. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Do you are you open to kind of talking about your relationship, like how you guys met and all that fun stuff?
Let's do it. Yeah. We
Okay.
wait, do you want to start or do you want me to just start talking about it?
Oh, you can just start talking about it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Um so we met actually just a little over 6 years ago. We first started talking through a mutual friend that we both had, and it was through kind of Instagram. We were kind of messaging with each other, and then eventually got a Snapchat, and then we were got his phone number, and we went on our first date. And then it's crazy that it's been 6 years because it really doesn't feel like it. Time just goes by so fast. Um, but we have been we'll officially be together for 6 years end of April, which is so cool. And he's my rock. He's my best friend. I love him so much. He's been doing so much for me, especially with all of my mental health issues that I deal with. I feel like sometimes I'm not the easiest person to have in the room. um, but he is an excellent support system for me, and I wouldn't have chosen anyone else to do so.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, Wes, Lenny, and I are all allies of the community, and definitely support that. And I'm always open to having a conversation about. I don't think it's about changing people's minds. It's about changing people's perceptions. For those who, I'm sure I don't, if you're open to talking about this, I'm sure that's a struggle because we live in a society where there's, I don't want to say, I don't know if stigma is the right word, but there's definitely opinions that people have about that, and I kind of struggle with that because for me it's like, what how does that affect you? Why does that bother you? You know what I mean? And so are if you're open to talking about your journey, I'd love to give you a platform to kind of talk about that, and tell us, what that was like, and how you feel then and how you feel now. Because that's a part of who you are. I don't think it's necessarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just a boring straight white male. But and correct me if I'm wrong here, Davis, but I know it's obviously a part of who you are, but I don't ever want someone to feel like or think that it's their entire identity, or it's like their entire personality. Like there's still like a person to discover and talk to beyond like their orientation. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I still want to take a few moments at least to celebrate that for you, and give you the platform to talk on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you actually brought that up because I think there's a common feeling that those within the LGBTQIA community need to um we have to label ourselves, and we have to identify as one type of person. And that was something I always struggled with. Mostly because, when you're growing up and dealing with those kinds of feelings, and sense of feeling odd or maybe different, or something doesn't feel normal as it's portrayed in a public setting, whether it be school or, at church or out shopping, whatever it might be. Um, and I really struggled with that because I didn't know what I wanted to identify as. But then it dawned on me that I don't have to identify as anything. Um, sure, I guess if you were to look at the grand scheme of things, yes, I'm gay. I like men, but that doesn't. I don't need to have that label. Like I'm still Davis. That doesn't change anything else about me. And when I hate this term too, but coming out and kind of coming up to this peak point where you're like, okay, this is who I am. I don't, I don't, I don't think that's necessarily necessary. When I had kind of come to that moment, with my parents, specifically remember I, as I had mentioned, I was kind of a socially awkward kid, and I tended to find that I did better with words when I wrote things out. And for my mom's birthday, a couple, I don't remember the year. We'll just call it in the mid-teens, I guess. Um, I wanted to give the gift, I guess. I guess that's what was going through my mind. I wanted to be open and honest about who I was as a person to my mom. And I told her, I said, you know what, I I I don't identify as gay, or that's necessarily who I am. It just happens to be something that I like. Same concept as how people like cars, or going out to eat, or um, traveling, right? That doesn't make up all of who I am as a person. It's just something that I happen to like. How other people like other things, and it's just, that's who I am. Um, and I think there's often a big misconception too, that, and I saw this growing up in high school and even through college, that I think it's always depicted that those within the LGBTQIA community act a certain way, and that stereotypical, like, maybe they're loud, or flamboyant, and I not everyone's like that. That's such a cookie cutter answer to be able to apply to a specific type of person. I don't think that's fair to them, because you're not really giving them a chance to be able to show who they are as a person. And if they're flamboyant and have a lot of energy, that's great. If they don't, though, wouldn't consider myself flamboyant. I don't think I'm like overly loud and obnoxious. I'm a socially awkward kid that just happens to like guys. Everybody's different, and I think everybody deserves a chance to be heard and listened, and kind of be able to express themselves how they want to.
Yeah, I love that. I think too often we feel this need to put people in a bucket, right? When we meet them, we want to be like, okay, it's you, it starts with something innocent. I feel like, where it's like, oh, what do you do? That's a very common question that you ask someone, like when you're getting to know someone, like, oh, what do you do for a living? And we sort of identify them or put them in that bucket of like, oh, they're an entrepreneur. Oh, okay, so they're either really successful or they're really not, and they either have a lot of money or they don't. And we just
Right.
immediately put them in a bucket, and so that's really, it's really good to hear, and nice to hear that it's that you don't feel like that you have to put yourself in a bucket, because I feel like when you put yourself in a bucket, you can kind of limit who you are, right? You're setting up this comfort zone of this box. So like, this is my box. This is where I'm at, and yeah. So, the other thing I wanted to mention too, and this is more so for folks who maybe they're not as educated on the matter, and or maybe it's someone who might have questions, but just like liking cars and just like having an interest, um it's kind of like a heart's desire. Like, we don't make that choice, right? So like, you don't. I think that's a common misconception for those who are, I guess we'll say, ignorant to the whole thing, is they think it's a choice, and you can just I don't know, pray it away or what, whatever those that group thinks. And so I just want to give you a chance to kind of reaffirm that it's not a choice. Like the heart wants what the heart wants what it wants, and that's how you feel, and it really is. It's no different than that's just, it's a part of you, but it's not the entire you.
Yeah, that's I remember growing up, and I remember feeling always conflicted because I was like, I feel obligated that I have to find a girl. And it was brought up in my family, more or less, just kind of like joking in a way of like, oh, do you have a girlfriend yet? Or, oh, do you have a girlfriend yet? Nothing like super harmful or offensive or anything like that. My family's fantastic, but, um, and I just remember feeling like, I don't know, like, no, there's not somebody. And I just always remember like being liking men. I don't, it wasn't like there was some turning point for me. That's always, I guess, how it's kind of been for me. And and that's not how everyone is necessarily, it's not like, okay, well, I think I'm going to start liking men now, or, oh, you know what, women are going to be my thing. I'm going to start doing that for now. It's a lot of people grow up that way, and I think people think that if they have that with them, that they're of bad character. And just because that's who they are, it does not make them a bad person. And there may be people that don't necessarily agree with things that I agree with, but I know at the end of the day that if that's who they are, that's who they are, and I'm not going to try and change them, because if that's who they want to be as a person and how they identify, that's not my job to change them. I'm not going to send them to conversion therapy camp or force them into a religious setting to try and correct things or go to therapy. I don't think people realize like how difficult that can be for some people, where they're forced to be able to feel like they have to talk about this to be fixed, like a broken leg. It's not like that. People are who they are, because of who they like, and that's their choice. That's who they want to be as a person.
Well said. Well said, and I could not agree anymore, man. The other follow-up question I have is, you said that you wrote your mom a letter. What was their, I guess, reaction, and how has your relationship with your family changed at all? For better or for worse, before or after that coming out?
Yeah, when I originally wrote the letter, I remember it was at nighttime, and I was so nervous to give it to my mom. And I went to go attempt to give it to my mom at night, but she had taken some sleeping medication or something where she was really drowsy and out of it. And I went to her bed and tried to wake her up. And I said, hey, like, I have a letter for you. I want you to read it. And I remember her saying, oh, I just put it on my table. I'll read it in the morning. I'm like, come on. Like, we got to do this now. I'm a nervous mess. We're going to have to do this. And then she fell back asleep. So then I was like, well, guess I don't really have much of a choice. So I just left it on our side table, and I went to my room, an anxious mess, and went to bed, woke up, and
wait, you were able to sleep?
Oh, I'm sure it took me forever to get to
sleep.
Yeah, I'm sure I was quivering all night. It was probably the saddest looking me ever. But I remember waking up, in that haze. You're like just trying to figure out what time it is, what's going on. And my mom comes into my room and she's crying, and she's, hugging me, and she's, I'm so happy for you. It was a joyous moment. And I guess to kind of add on to that, I remember before I gave it to my mom, the first person I had ever shown it to anybody was my dad. He was away from work, or away at work, I should say. And I was said, "Hey, can you proofread this letter for me? I want to give it to mom for her birthday." And he's like, "Oh, I'm getting ready for bed." I'm like, "Come on, what is it with parents trying to go to bed and like just not wanting to do something? Like, no, we don't have time for this. You're going to have to read it tonight." And he's like, "Okay." And remember being so nervous in that moment in time. And my dad replied, "Wow, I hate you, son. Just kidding. I don't care who you like, what you're into. I don't care if you're black, white, green, purple. I still love you as a person, and that doesn't change anything." Keep in mind, my dad's a very sarcastic person. That's why he opened with that comment, to kind of provide a little bit of startle, just to add to the anxiety that I already had. But it's fine. He is so supportive, and that's something I think a lot of people in that community deal with. That, when you think of a dad, you think of like masculinity and like, "Ugh, I'm tough, and we like girls, and we like doing," like the stereotypes. And I unfortunately had that burned into me, and I was like, I don't know, what if my dad doesn't love me anymore? Like, what if this is a turning point, And he is by far the perfect example of how every parent should be, when they go in that type of situation. I I couldn't have asked for a better response, and it's still something that I cherish to this day.
That's awesome. That's really amazing. So, yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. You have a support system that not everyone has, and that's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that we're even afraid in the first place, I think, to say, "Hey, mom, dad, I'm actually this," or I like this. Um, it's, I can't imagine, as much of an empath as I am, I can't imagine. Um, I think, and maybe this is not a good direct example, but it makes me think of. Are you on TikTok at all? You do the TikTok a little
I
bit.
spend a lot of time on TikTok, an
So
unhealthy.
you're probably familiar with Dylan Mulvaney. I think her last name is. Is that her
Yes.
last name? Dylan Mulvaney? She just
Mhm.
had her Day 365 special. Ashley and I watched it, and it was really cool. Obviously, like, what was great about it is that even though it was like a paid to like view like event, that money went to the Trevor Project, which I thought was amazing. And so we were like,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, so we were like super happy to, like, at first I was kind of put off. I was like, $5 to see this like girl talk about her life, whatever. Like it's cool to support, whatever. But then when they were like, "Oh, it goes to the Trevor Project," I was like, "Oh, well, okay, all right, fine, I'll
What's
pony
five
up."
bucks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was really cool. And I think what was really eye-opening about it is that the people in that community have a lot of hurdles that they deal with from, and everyone's different, just like you said, Davis. Everyone's different. Not everyone's in a box. Everyone's got a different story, different situation. From coming out to, if you're making that transition, or deciding if you do, or doing that journey, whatever you fall under in that. My ex's dad is gay, and he's one of the coolest people I've ever met. And it's not his entire personality, but at the same time, like, when we went to Chicago, because after he split up with my ex's mom, he moved to Chicago and lives up in Boys Town, and we went to some gay bars, and I'm telling you, it's just a great experience even for someone like me, because you get to know and you get to meet people. It's about meeting different people from different walks of life, right? But it's also just you get to experience that, and I'm telling you, gay bars are where it's at, man. Nobody
They're
has more
fun.
fucking fun than somebody in a gay bar. I don't care who you are, what community you're a part of. It's just, and I've met some really, really awesome people because of my relationship, or because of that past relationship. And my future, someone help me out with the family tree here. So Ashley's aunt, I don't know what that would make her for me. If that would make her like a sister-in-law.
An aunt-in-law?
Mm,
Aunt-in-law sounds weird. I don't know.
law
Anyways,
sounds like a very formal or like a historical law that was passed.
yeah.
The aunt-in-law
But
of
anyways,
1865.
but anyway, she's gay, she's married, and it's just it's kind of to your point though, Davis. Like she's not flamboyant. She doesn't have like the haircut. She's a normal person.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are that way, and I think, you don't have to put someone in a box, but I'm telling you, like, there's just, it's, if you don't understand the culture, if you're ignorant to the culture, if you are anti that culture's rights, I mean, I'm not here to say shame on you. I think you have some learning and some growing to do. But I'm telling you, you're missing out on some of the coolest friendships and some of the coolest people. Not because they are gay, but because you're shutting yourself off from a type of person. You're shutting yourself off from a type of person that you could meet, that you could actually have a lot of common ground with, which I think is just, like I said, I don't want to speak for Davis, and I also don't want Davis to feel like he's like the representative of the community and put that responsibility on his shoulders. But like,
Yeah.
I guess before we close out and go to the shoutouts, Davis, is there anything that you want to say to those people who maybe, if they do have questions, maybe if they're a little open-minded, but they still, they're like, I think it's weird, but like, or the people who flat out are just against your rights. I that's probably harsh to say, but yeah.
True though. Yeah, I would invite you all to take just one step out and just have a conversation with someone that you don't know. You will learn something about them that they may be able to add value to your life, or something that you find fascinating. Small example, I went out to a birthday dinner yesterday, and one of our friends, let me think of this. Her friend's husband's stepmom? Yes. She was talking with us, and she was so fascinated with who we were, and she didn't care that we were gay. It was just a matter of, she said that you guys are just such great people to talk to. You're so interesting. You have interesting lifestyles. Take, at some point or another, just go and meet somebody that is different from you. You don't necessarily have to love them, but there might be something that you were able to take away from that conversation, or even maybe a different perspective. And same for me. I challenge myself and to you all to do the exact same thing. There's something we can learn from everybody, or even gain some insight from.
I couldn't word that any better myself, man. That's awesome. I think that's really great advice. That's really great. Davis, it's been real. It's been fun. I don't know if you want this tag, but you are the first openly gay person we've had on the show, which I think is just really cool. It took us until almost 100 episodes, but we did it. It's just been really fucking cool having you on and talking about everything that we've been talking about. And you worked in the product zone when we were both at Apple, and I was in the Genius Bar, so we never got a whole lot of one-on-one time. But in passing, you're just always a great guy to work with, and just always wanted to help. Just always wanted to help people and build knowledge and build people. And I feel that same way, and that's what I want to do now. Is I really want to focus on training and development and helping people, aspire to greater heights. And I feel like that's what you were doing at Apple, and I feel like you did a really great job of that. So, but enough of me bragging about you. We've come to the part of the show where you get to shout out whoever you want. So take it away, man.
I want to shout out my mom and my dad. No, I'm just kidding. You can find me on social media platforms. I'm on Twitter and YouTube at Davis Wells WX. It's kind of where I'm starting my weather journey as a weather forecaster, not a meteorologist, because I will not give myself that title until I properly earn it. But you can, on Twitter, I post all sorts of cool pictures from across the U.S., cool videos, different things you may not typically see. And then on YouTube lately, for like the last month or so, I've been posting new forecast videos, and I do have a new video coming out later this week, kind of debunking some of those weather myths that a lot of people are under the impression of lightning can't strike one place more than once, or things like that. So it's super interesting. If you're interested in that type of stuff, head on over, check my YouTube pages out, my Twitter page, and and it's free too. Doesn't cost a thing to support.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too, is that it supports you. It helps get you out there, and I think that's really great. One thing that I did, and I actually kind of accidentally discovered for myself, is subscribing to Davis's Twitter and hitting the bell for notifications is better than like pretty much any weather app I've ever used, because you get these updates on an app that you already have on your phone, but like there's the weather and you get to learn cool shit. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a meteorology kid, like at heart still, like I still have a lot of love for that in like deep inside. But it's been really cool to follow you. I wish you nothing but the best with success, and wherever you land. I'd love for it to be Toledo, so I can be like, hey, I know that guy. But wherever you end up, man, I know that you will flourish, and you will be amazing. I already know, just from what I've seen, like my dad was a radio DJ for 30 years. He's been in broadcasting. I saw a lot of shit as a kid, and you just kind of take that, and as an adult now, you can kind of tell, like, hey, this person's got it. Like, they've got the heart and they've got the drive, and they're fucking good at it. So, Wes, what do you got for shout outs, man?
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Davis. It's awesome that I got to hear your story. That's literally my favorite part of anything involving this podcast, is just hearing people's story that I otherwise probably would not hear your story, and this is awesome. Thank you for sharing as much as you did. It's not easy to share things on YouTube or on podcasts, so I really appreciate that. I'd like to give a shout out to Kevin. Thank you for hosting. I'm just sitting here looking awkward on camera, so thank you for doing the heavy lifting. Shout out to mothers. That is actually a thing we do on this podcast. We shout out to all mothers everywhere, because mothers are just great, and they generally work their ass off. Everyone doesn't have a great mother, so shout out to fathers as well. Your father sounds excellent. I'm very jealous that you have such a great dad. Jealous is the wrong word.
I'm very fortunate.
Shout out to closed-minded people. Get to know somebody.
Yes. Just talk with somebody.
Start a conversation. Free. Yeah. Want to shout out my mom for being an amazing force in my life, of course. Want to shout out Ashley for just being a stunning, supportive, and just incredible partner in life. I'm going to do it every week. I don't care who gets sick of it. It's just going to keep happening, so better get used to it. Davis, I want to shout you out for coming on the show. I think there's a different level of there's a difference between talking about what you've talked about today with friends and talking about it with someone over something that's going to end up on the internet. You know what I mean? And I think that takes like a different level of bravery and courage. And I think there's also, like you said, like there's some mental health stuff associated with that too. I feel bad that we didn't really get time to talk too much about that with you, but who knows? Maybe we'll need a guest spot in the future. That's going to do it for us this week, folks. Don't forget to leave a review on your favorite listening platform. Check us out on at The Life Midwest. Email us at support@thelifemidwest.com. Check out Wes's beautifully made website at thelifemidwest.com. And all of Davis's links and socials and where you can find him and follow him and click the bell are going to be in the podcast description below. Until then, folks, we will see you guys next Saturday and every Saturday on the Life Midwest podcast. Take care. Have a good one.
Deuces.